I'm Stephanie Rivers, and I'm inviting some other people. So while you're getting settled in, come on in. I want to welcome you to my journal. I'm Stephanie Rivers. If you're new to the conversation, welcome. And if you are returning, we want to welcome you back. This is a TriCast. I'm TriCasting on YouTube and Facebook Live and LinkedIn. So I want you to join the conversation, not just by listening, but also by commenting. Maybe this is something that's near and dear to you or someone you know. And I try to come to you live on Sunday evenings. And so, welcome to the conversation. Be sure to like and share and subscribe so that when I do post new videos, you'll be one of the first people to know. Today, we're going to talk about the Boy Scouts of America. Some of my fondest memories of my childhood was of me in the Girl Scouts of America. I learned a lot of life skills. I learned how to read maps. I learned how to read a compass, use a compass. We went hiking. I learned how to make a fire. A lot of useful life skills, tying knots. You got the badges. So a lot of people who are not a part of the Scouts always think it's just about for girls, selling Girl Scout cookies. Of course, that was the annual thing. But selling cookies is also a valuable life skill, salesmanship 101. I learned a lot by being a Girl Scout. I got to spend time with my friends outside of school doing fun things. And so it was really something that was near and dear to my heart. It's a way for children to learn social skills, socialization, just going through the next generation or the next steps of who they're going to become. So it seems like a lot of people also were a part of the Scouts. And if you were from the South, I grew up in Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee. If you were from the South, you were either a part of the Scouts or you were a part of the 4-H club, and you learned about agriculture and animals and all of that. So it was really a fun time. But it's a different world. And sometimes what I've learned is that a lot of the experiences that I had that were happy for me, there were thousands, tens of thousands of other people who did not have such a wonderful experience with scouting. In fact, the truth is that there are some children who are now adults and some families who claimed that they were victimized as a part of the Boy Scouts of America. And they were victimized by people who should have been people that they can trust. And so it's, I don't know if you've heard, but the Boy Scouts of America, they filed for bankruptcy some time ago, a few months ago, in fact. And they filed for bankruptcy essentially because hundreds of former Scouts filed lawsuits against the Boy Scouts of America, essentially claiming that they were victimized by their Scout masters and assistant Scout masters, other people who were in the leadership of over them as in the Boy Scouts of America. Now, if I had children, I would, based on my personal experience in the Scouts, I would want my children to be a part of a Scout troop because, like I said, you learn so much. But then I wouldn't want, based off of what I heard, seems like it's a new day, a new type of people, a new breed of people. You can't even trust people to do right by a child. According to the reports I've read, there have been hundreds of people who have filed lawsuits charging that they themselves, as children or their family members, were victimized, sexually assaulted by their scoutmasters as a part of the Boy Scouts of America. In fact, there are 12,000, at least 12,000 former scouts who claimed that they were victimized. And this goes all the way back to 1965. That's 55 years worth of claims. Those are people who are now senior citizens, basically, or about to be senior citizens, that claim that they were victimized by their scout leaders. And so I want to ask you a question. Do you know, what was your experience as a part of the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts? And if you are sending me feedback based on what platform you're on, because again, this is a TriCast, I might not be able to see all of your responses right away, but I certainly will go back and I do address or I do respond as they come in. And so again, there are lots of people, more than 12,000 people claim that they, between now and 1965, they had been victimized by someone an adult who they should have been able to trust. And that's why the Boy Scouts of America, they had so many claims against them that they have now filed for bankruptcy. So whether you haven't experienced personally filing for bankruptcy, most of the time that's to keep creditors from coming to claim or staking claim on what you consider to be your assets. And so Boy Scouts of America has done the same thing. They have filed bankruptcy to keep these hundreds of lawsuits from stripping away all their assets. So the courts, the civil courts, have decided that if you are an aggrieved party and you want to file a lawsuit against the Boy Scouts of America, you have until the middle of next month, the middle of November 2020, to file that claim. So I think the deadline is either November 15th or November 20th, but it is about a month away. So there are lots of law firms out there who have taken on the position of filing claims on behalf of their clients. So I would say do your research. And if you feel like you or a family member is in a position to where you might want to file, because although 12,000 people have come forth, there are many more people who might not have come forth, might not have made it formally known that they were assaulted or victimized by someone in the Boy Scouts of America. And these are alleged claims. And so, I wasn't there and I don't know what happened, but they have alleged that they were assaulted. And these cases, when they did report them, these cases were either ignored or the person that was accused was allowed to be reassigned to another troop, or they were allowed to leave without any accountability for what was being alleged or claimed against them. Kind of like with the Catholic Church, when there were a lot of priests that were charged, or that were some children said they were also assaulted by priests. Some of these priests were never held accountable, were allowed to change churches and move around the Catholic system. And years later, it has come to pass because what's done in the dark will soon come to the light. That now there's at least 12,000 people, hundreds of cases filed against the Boy Scouts of America. And so the people who are charged and can be held liable two ways. There's a criminal charges that could be filed, and there is a civil charge that could be filed. Now, when it comes to the criminal charges, that is will be held from state to state. That would be something that each state has a statute of limitations. So based on the statute of limitations in whatever state that person is filing in, that would determine if there's still a possibility that criminal charges could be held against the accused. And so I'm going to stop right here and ask you to please like and share this video and subscribe, so the next time I bring bring a conversation before you, you'll be the first to know. So the second way that a person aggrieved can hold liable an organization is civilly. So that's what these cases are. So there are one or two, maybe five law firms across the country who have said, we're going to take your case, we're going to take your case forward. And what I assume that they're going to do is, once they get all the people together and see how many people there are and what their cases are and what kind of evidence there might be, then they'll probably file a class action lawsuit against Boy Scouts of America. Now, again, as I was saying, my experience in the Scouts was wonderful. And in fact, my troop leader, I won't say her name because I don't want to say her name in connection with the focus of my conversation today, but she was the most wonderful person. In fact, she also served as my second grade teacher, in addition to the Scout leader. She would have us over for meals at her house, for sleepovers. She was just the sweetest person. Even in the climate of a pandemic today, if I saw her, I'd have to hug her because she was just the most wonderful person. And so it's always important for children to have trusted adults in their lives that they can depend on to protect them. And so I give nothing but praise and thanks to the teachers in my life, my Scout leaders, and as the child of a single parent, there's a lot that parents have to keep up with. And so my mother, as the only person working, and I'm in school as a child, when you have parents who they have to work, they have to keep up the household, they have to help you with your homework, you got to keep up with all my activities. I was in the Scouts, I was in the band, I was in ROTC, I ran track, I was just all over the place. I was a very active participant in extracurricular activities, as well as in the community. I was worked with my church, just so many things that if it were not for a nucleus of an extended family of people to help my mother keep up with me and my activities to make sure I was okay, I just, praise and thank my mother for being so wonderful. And, at the time, of course, I might have felt like, how kids feel about their parents. But looking at it now, I am so thankful that the childhood I had helped me to become the productive, assertive, confident person that I am today. And so, unfortunately, some children did not live that kind of life. Some children, didn't have the love and concern of extended family members. And so children won't always tell you what it is that's going on with them. And that's why we have to know how to pick those things out. And so before I get too far along, I will go over some red flags that you might want to look for if you have if you are a parent, if you are a custodian of a child, or if you just have your auntie or uncle or cousin, big cousin, things that you might want to look for. Because what happens is that when children have hurts, when they are hurt physically or hurt emotionally, sometimes they don't just come to you and talk to you about it. We as adults, trusted adults, we have to ask them. We got to talk to them. You have to be engaged, because I mean, I'm no child psychologist, but I have done some child advocacy work, and I was a child, and so that qualifies me to talk about it. And I don't have children, but I know that they do need us. They do need people to protect them and love them and nurture them along. And so the best way to do that is to always engage them, ask them things such as, how was your day? What did you talk when they're not in your presence, when your child is not at home? Try to find out, and it's your responsibility to know who they're spending time with. It's your responsibility to ask them, how was your day? Who was there? What happened? Because in those questions, you're going to find out a lot of things about what they're going through and how they're handling things. It's not just about, when you have children, it's not just about, giving them food and giving them a clothes and a roof over their head. There's a whole lot more to developing productive citizens, little people, than just giving them food, clothing, and shelter. You don't have to look any further than the show Iyanla Fix My Life to realize there are a lot of people who are adults today who are not as productive as they could be, who are broken because of what they went through in childhood. And so if you know anyone, any child, or an adult who was a child who is going through something and is connected to the Boy Scouts of America, you have less than a month. Let's say you have less than a month, because today's the 11th. And so I think the deadline is around November 15th or so. Do your research, for you to file a claim to possibly be a part of the class action lawsuit against the Boy Scouts of America. Because when I worked with child advocacy, we would go to schools, we would talk to children about the issues they were going through that dealt with bullying. Now, I was bullied as a child because I was taller than most people, most of my classmates. And so I guess, that was like, I was a target basically because I was taller. So I was bullied. So we went to schools to talk with children about being bullied, how to handle bullies. We talked to them about strangers, what to do and not to do if you were approached by strangers. We talked to them about unsafe touches, about knowing that your body is your own property and nobody is supposed to be able to just touch you, and especially if you don't want them to touch you, and how to go to a trusted adult who is going to listen to you and get you help. And so I remember one instance where I went to a school, And it was maybe I talked to like third graders, fourth graders. And after, the 30-minute presentation where you talk to the children, and then you ask them, we would have them individually come outside and outside of the class and talk to us one on one, and you would just follow up. So, how'd you like what you saw, what you heard? Is there anybody? I remember the question. Is there anybody who makes you feel uncomfortable? I think that was a question. Is there anybody who makes you feel uncomfortable? And this little girl said, yeah, but he buys me ice cream and he takes me to the park, and she went all around. Yeah, but he does all these nice things. And I said, well, what is it that makes you feel uncomfortable? And she told me, long story short, that she was being sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And so we didn't let her go home that day, because she come to find out he was her stepfather. He was the father of her baby sibling, and she didn't tell her mother because she didn't want to break up their family. And that's what she told me. And so I had to say to her, well, we've got to get you help. And I can't promise you that won't break up your family, but we have to give you help, get you some help. And she was like, okay, I understand. And so, like I said, she ended up not going home. And so I handed her off to the next thing because I had done my part to get to that step. But I ended up having to go to court and testify in court as to what she said to me and how she said it. And, so that leads me to a few things that you might need to look for, you might want to look for. And especially if your child is a part of Scouts, if your child does spend time away from home with family members, and it's sad to say, but some family members, you can't trust everybody with your babies, okay? And so you need to make sure the coaches, the teachers, the scout masters, the pastor, all of these people, the neighbors, you have to make sure that whoever you're trusting for the care of your child is doing in their best interest and is not harming them physically, emotionally, sexually, any way possible. Because these are the future people, future leaders of our world. And if we don't do right by them right now, we will later on see them doing something to someone else or acting out in a way that leads us to realize that we didn't do the best by them when we had a chance. So let's see. If you know of anyone who needs to hear this, needs to see this, who might be dealing with some childhood issues that they have not worked through, like Iyanla Van Zant says, you must do the work. You have to work through it so it will not hold you hostage for the rest of your life. And then full disclosure, one of the things that I work through to this day is I stutter. I have a stuttering problem. And it started because, as I have been told, when I was an infant, I was witness to a lot of fighting and domestic abuse. And not of me, but of my parents, domestic abuse among them. And I was there to witness it. And so my speech pattern was always, interrupted because they were fighting and I'm trying to talk or crying or something, so I'm not clear on exactly what happened, but sometimes it comes through, sometimes I can talk and there's no problem. And then other times I try to talk and there's like lots of problems. But I don't let it stop me from being my best, living my best life, doing what I want to do. And if I stutter here and there, then, that's just something that I have to deal with. We all are dealing with something. Everybody's dealing with something. You just have to work through it and make sure it doesn't stop you from being the best person that you can be. So, here are some things when you are talking to children, asking them those questions. You want to make sure that you listen to the answer. If their body language is not as it should be, their facial expressions are not as they should be, those might be indications that you need to follow up with what they're doing when they're not in your presence. So some red flags, again, that you might want to look at is if your child or the child in question, they're happy, outgoing, they used to be happy and outgoing and love to do certain things, and now all of a sudden they're sad and withdrawn with no reasonable explanation as to why they are that way, then you might want to look into why that has happened. If they used to like to be around certain people, like every Tuesday or what have you, they like to go to a certain neighbor's house or they like to do certain activities, and now all of a sudden they don't want to go anymore, they don't want to see that person, you should follow up as to why that is. Now, of course, kids are children. They're going to be moody sometimes. They're going to change their mind a lot. And so, your child. And just ask questions. Because sometimes it's nothing as to why they're acting kind of crazy. And then sometimes it's something as to why they're acting like they're acting. So you just be aware, be engaged. Don't always feel like you've done all you can until you get to the bottom of what the issue is. Number 3, if children start to self-mutilate, if they start wetting the bed, if their behaviors are changing at school, they used to get A's and B's, now they're like not doing the best work and their teacher is having issues with them, then certainly look into that and find out why. And here's a big indication. If they start to become interested in sex or sexual acts that is not age appropriate, then that is a big indication that something else is going on that you should certainly ask questions about. And so, again, if you know of a situation that needs attention by the police, or if you think you might want to get a counselor or someone to help diagnose what might be going on, you could save the next generation of people. You might be saving the next leader of the free world. You just never know. So make it your business to protect the children, protect your children, and help them to be the best that they can be. And there are a lot of hotlines out there, abuse hotlines, that you should have on hand. And there's nothing wrong with going to counseling. Everybody needs to talk to somebody else at some point. And so if you have any knowledge of, or if you think that, you might know someone who needs to see this, I would say like the video, share the video, and subscribe, and tell them that, hey, we know you've been holding on to this for so long, but it's time for us to bring closure to it. And the best way to do that is the first step is to talk about it, to acknowledge it. And so I remember, and then I'm closing up, I remember being like 4 or 5 years old, and my mother was driving me from kindergarten, and we were just talking. It was just always me and her just talking, 4-year-old conversation. And I said, and I told her about that this man had touched me. I said, he touched me, mommy. And she was like, who touched you? So I was telling her how we had gone swimming at my class. In my class, had a little swimming class. And the kindergarten teacher, her son, who was like 19, 18, 19, because we were like 4 or 5, he was supposed to be helping her to teach us to swim, or chaperoning us. So he, in my opinion, he was touching me in places where I was later gonna grow breasts, or touching me between my legs where he shouldn't have been. If all you're doing is just holding me up on the water, come on now. I mean, I'm poor, but I ain't stupid. So anyway, I told my mother that that's what was going on. And do you know, I never saw that 19-year-old again at the class. Now, whether she officially went and said, wanted to charge him with something, or she just went to the teacher and said, hey, your son can't be, especially since he's not certified or qualified, or he was just like a volunteer. You can't be out here with my child and she's feeling uncomfortable. He can't do that. So my mother has always been an advocate for me, a protector for me, even when I didn't want her to be, but she's always been there. So if your mother is like my mother, if you got adults in your life like I had my mother and my grandparents and my aunts and uncles, you are truly blessed and appreciated and protected. And so let's be that way for the children in our lives. Let's let them feel blessed and appreciated and protected and loved. And let's stop the bullying, and let's stop the assaults and the victimization of our children. And if we can do that, we'll be doing better for them, for our family, and for the world around us. So to find out more about the things that I care about, you can go to the written version of my journal. It's at EUR Web. I'm going to type that in for you. EURweb.com. Thanks and have a super day.